Hi, folks. My name is Prairie Rose Seminole. I'm really excited to join you all today. We are with Vote Run Lead, our training around rapid response. Myself, I'm calling in from Western North Dakota. I'm a national trainer for Vote Run Lead. I've been with them for quite a few years. I've been training candidates and campaign workers and activists and advocates for the better part of 15. My daytime job, I'm the program manager for Advanced Native Political Leadership, which is a Native-led org that is all about training candidates as well. So I'm excited to equip you. Vote Run Lead, we want you to run as you are. We believe that every woman has a place in elected office, and you just need some tools. So a rapid response training, I feel, is one of those valuable tools to have in your box, especially during the get out the vote timeframe, which we're kind of in right now, right? Like, this is a historic election and we're in full operation mode. Whether you're a candidate or a campaign worker, our job right now is to get out the vote. And so putting together a rapid response plan for you and your team is one of them essentials. I know that the toolkit is going to be dropped into the comments, and today we're going to be discussing what will be on page 4 and page 5. So check the comments for the toolkit so that we can get you the step-by-step plan to a rapid response. Why would we need a rapid response? Voter suppression happens in various ways. And where I am in North Dakota, my personal experience working with campaigns, there's been a lot. Whether it's needing new polling locations, whether it's needing more ballots when we've really turned out the vote and precincts we're losing ballots are going to run out, or other tactics that made us need to have a better plan in place. We needed to get some press around what was happening and what kind of tactics were being used. I know in 2018, one headline that kind of made national news was the voter ID requirement for North Dakota tribes. And that went all the way to Supreme Court. The Supreme Court stayed the decision, which meant that they didn't make a decision to uphold the voter ID requirement in North Dakota, requiring all voter ID valid IDs needed to have a physical address on the identification card. Well, if you know anything about rural areas and some tribal communities, and here we are in North Dakota where there's a lot of rural and tribal communities, we don't have physical addresses on our IDs. Sometimes they're post office boxes. And so we had less than 50 days to equip voters with a physical address on their ID, and folks really turned out. There was a lot of press, which I'll walk you through on our worksheet here in a second, that came out to inform voters of their rights, to let them know that regardless of their ID situation, that they had a right to vote. And we wanted them to be equipped with the proper ID, and we wanted them to be equipped with their knowledge on how to hold our polling locations and our officials accountable. So we worked with the Secretary of State's office, we worked with county auditors, we worked with tribal governments, and we worked primarily with the people to get them informed. So let's get started. Other voter suppression plans, which you will have on the worst case scenario list, issues like what we're seeing today, actually, where misinformation is being sent to households around voting requirements, or even where to vote, right? Some other scenarios would be, say you have a precinct that has a large Spanish-speaking population and nobody at the poll speaks Spanish, right? Maybe you're in a precinct or a district that there's poll workers that are being racist or trying to intimidate voters, which happens. Maybe you're at a polling location where the scanner is not scanning documents. Maybe you're in a precinct where billboards went up to intimidate voters that said voting fraud is a felony. Or maybe you're in an area where you were told there were steps that you had to take that you didn't have to take. Again, misinformation and redirecting voters to be discouraged not to vote. It happens, and I've seen some of these in real life. It's crazy that there's areas in our country that are trying to deny our right to vote. So first, we're going to go through the rapid response worksheet, where, again, it's page 5. Hold it up, of your toolkit, and if you don't have it, check the comments below. The toolkit will be dropped into the comments, and you can find a lot of this information too at our website for Vote Run Lead, voterunlead.org, and definitely follow us on Facebook and Twitter, Instagram. We're everywhere. We want to empower you to run for office, and we want to make sure that you're equipped to do that and ready to run as you are. So let's go through the worksheet. First, we need to describe the incident and what happened. Maybe there's people being turned away at the polling location because they're told to go to a different polling location. Maybe there's some situation where poll workers are intimidating voters. We need to document the incident, whether that's through pictures or video recording. We want to make sure that there's plenty of documentation. If it's billboards that are going up to intimidate people, take pictures of it. If it's misinformation being sent out to voters, we'll get to this on the list, but document it. Hold on to those mailers. Definitely make sure that you're documenting the incident as thoroughly as possible. What is the problem, right? It's misinformation going to voters. It's voter intimidation. Make sure that you can describe what is the exact problem. So what is the solution? I know when we were running out of ballots at one of our tribal precincts, we had to contact the county auditor, get more ballots, right? Misinformation going to voters. Maybe you've got a good relationship with your Secretary of State, and so you got to contact your Secretary of State's office. We know for sure that Secretary of States like in Colorado and other states received information that voters were getting mailers that had misinformation around how to vote, where to vote, and deadlines. And so I know the Secretary of State here in 2020 in Colorado is suing the people who sent out that mailer, right? And you got to hold them accountable. So that's one solution. But when you're working on a campaign, if you're working for a candidate, or maybe you're working for a nonprofit that's just out there to get out the vote, you have to think about your role. So what is the campaign's role in the solution? And I wanted to distinguish too, without spending too much time on the role of a campaign, because some of these campaigns are run nonpartisan through like a C3 organization, a nonprofit C3 organization. And in that case, our job is to ensure that we have people informed, equipped with that knowledge on how to vote, but also that they're voting safely, right? So those C3 organizations can only stay in a nonpartisan role to get out the vote. Now C4, say if this is a candidate's campaign, your candidate can come out strongly and say, there's misinformation happening here, and here's what you need to do, and then roll out the plan as well, which gets into who or what else is needed, right? If we're part of a campaign that wants to make a strong statement about voter suppression and the barriers to voting in your area, we might need some help with that. So maybe it is the Secretary of State, maybe it is those poll workers, maybe it is the county auditor, right? We have to see who's making the decision, and then how do we affect those decisions. So who or what else is needed? Documentation, right? Maybe we have to get the right information, right? In the case of North Dakota, to equip voters with the tribal IDs, we actually had to go out and buy printers, right, for the tribes, or equip the tribes with resources so that they can print more identification cards, so voters can go vote at the polling location in person. Now this year with the pandemic, we still want to ensure that people are equipped to vote, whether it's voting safely early through vote by mail or voting safely in person. So continuing on our worksheet, what is the communication strategy? How are we going to roll out this barrier, this problem, and our solutions to it? We probably have to contact the press, right? Get the reporters' names. Make sure that your campaign or your organization is preparing a message, a statement. If it's misinformation, what is the correct information? If it's clearly voter suppression and intimidation, we're not going to accept that, right? If it's based on race or other type of equity issues that are intimidating and discouraging voters to come on vote, that's not acceptable. Our campaign statement has to be strong and it has to be bold in saying this is not acceptable. And voters, here's what you can do, right? And then in this era of social media, we got to start rolling that out. So as a campaign, as an organization, you probably have a base that you've built that you can leverage in times like this and say, hey, this is happening. This is the problem. Here's our solution. And these are social media messages that you can help support this solution and our campaign's message. So there's a lot of ways you can develop that social media strategy with your team, and hopefully you have an organization or a campaign equipped with a messaging person, a communications person, excuse me, that can help you draft those pieces. But test it out, right? Test it out in a way that is personal and communicating that solution and the right steps to take. Occasionally, there needs to be a legal strategy, right? This might be years-long effort to ensure that everybody has the right to vote and a path to voting. For example, in states like North Dakota, states in situations in North Dakota and Colorado, and other states that have had barriers put in place that would not change unless we took them to court, it moves further. So what is that legal strategy? Again, it's everything we've just gone through. Description of the incident, documentation of that incident, whether it's pictures, video recordings, affidavits of witnesses, conversations with the community. We have to lawyer up sometimes, especially in situations where you might not find answers within your county auditor or Secretary of State's office. It has to go to another venue. And that then takes a whole nother adventure pathway of justice, right? So I feel like we've covered a lot with the rapid response worksheet. And I know that there possibly is questions. So feel free to write questions in the chat box. And rolling out this plan is, like I said, one of those tools that we need within our toolbox for get out the vote efforts, because this is going to be something that, we're not planning for barriers. We're not planning for crisis. We want to ensure that we are planning to respond if and when necessary. So we're going to have a communication plan in place for rolling out to our base, rolling out to the press and social media, and then potential legal areas. So be prepared to think about these things. I know our Colorado Senator, State Senator Faith Winter did a recording for our Get Out the Vote efforts. So make sure that you check on the Vote Run Lead Facebook page and follow that, as well as check out Faith's recording. Via web, one of our other national trainers will be joining us in a few days to also be putting out some more GOTV messaging and equipping you more with some tools. Again, Vote Run Lead, we're lifting you up as ready to run. You are. As many women put ourselves in places where we're not capable or have the capacity to do it, we're ready to go. We're ready to run, and you have more experience than you even know to sit at the tables making decisions that affect all of our lives. And I want to thank you for your time. This has been Rapid Response Training, and I've been delighted to bring you this tool. Join us next time.